Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit nbda.com.
At Jamis, we love being in the bike business. We've been at it for decades, but for us, it's not just about product. It's about partnerships, and we view our retailers as partners, not competitors. Strong margin structures and simple programs make doing business easy, and we offer full margin on our all-access consumer web orders. We invite you to visit the Contact Us section of jamisbikes.com for more information about being a Jamis retailer. And a special thank you to NBDA for helping unite the bike industry. Collaboration drives evolution.
Bike Flights delivers everything you need to ship a bike, right to you. Save time and money, whether you are selling online, processing a warranty return, or helping a customer ride a bucket list event. Bike Flight's easy-to-pack bike boxes, carbon-neutral shipping, and pickup to delivery monitoring make it simple and save you up to 40%. Email partners@bikeflights.com to get started today. Bike Flights. We ship, you ride.
Hi listeners, thanks for being here. Today I'm talking with Tony Steward. He is an EOS implementer and he is the owner of the Bike Lab. And we're talking about EOS and how that can help bike shop owners regain focus, build stronger teams, and break through certain growth barriers to achieve lasting success. It's a really timely conversation. Tony goes into why EOS is more than just another business trend. It is a proven system. It's one that we use actually at the NBDA. So lots in this conversation. I consider this a must listen. Many of our P2 members use EOS, and Tony is going to give you some helpful tools. In the show notes, we have some stuff linked in there too, so grab those resources as well. I hope you enjoy. There we go. Tony, thanks for coming on Bicycle Retail Radio. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I am thrilled. Every chance that the National Bicycle Dealers Association gets to work with you is just like, this is a good day, because the information that you have shared with our retailers through webinars, your P2 program exposure, coming to our summit last year, I've only heard positive things from retailers. So this is great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're a bike shop owner too. So how is business right now? I see it looks like you're in the shop, right?
I'm in my fit room right now. I'm in Oklahoma City, and I've been a certified retool fitter for 13 years, and there's not as many of those in this part of the country. So I have 4 women that drove in from Amarillo, about 4 or 5 hours away, and we're knocking all their fits out for their mountain and gravel bikes today and tomorrow. So I'm in my retool fit room right now. So that part of the business is going great. I think like most of us out there right now, we're trying to figure out how to position, our product to the market and how they want to get it. And sales have been a real struggle for us the last couple of years. It's very different market engagement now than what it was before. And so it's much more than rethinking the model. It's thinking about the first step of, with what I have, who wants it and how do they want to get it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your fitting, the fitting services you're offering, because so many retailers I'm talking to, it's about, okay, the rider journey. What is the rider and where does the rider envision themselves using this product, and how can your store and your staff play a role in that? And making sure people are fit to their bike, and they're getting the handlebars that are appropriate for their shoulder size and whatnot. That is so important. It's great work. So I love that people are seeking you out for that. That has to feel really good.
It feels good too. And I had a mentor say a while back when it comes to like how you sell things and what you're trying to connect people to, they might get distracted by features, but what they want are results,
Hmm.
right? And the result somebody wants when they're getting a bike um, is the gear part is cool, but on the floor, going through all the features may not be what they want versus how they can have the experience they're looking for when they're out on that bike. And the bike's just a part of it. So fit allows us from the very start of our conversation through our fitting process to get them connected with that result the most effective way. Even though it's not as efficient as just sizing them and getting them out the door in a bike, it's very effective at getting them to the result they're looking for.
Yeah, and it grows that personal connection, which I think we're all craving too, because as you're going
Yeah.
through service, you're getting to know the rider a little bit more as a person. It's really great.
We do a free fit with every bike purchase, and it takes about 30 minutes. So I'm like, if they can't love our shop and love us from being stuck in a room with me for 30 minutes, then I'm messing something up. So it's a great chance to talk about our culture and who we are and get the chance to know them and make that personal connection.
I love that. You're such a great human. So not only do you own a bike shop and you're impacting people's cycling journey, but you're also a professional EOS implementer,
Hmm.
which is great. And you've been doing this now for over a year. Almost, Tony, tell us more about your journey into EOS. Like, what is EOS, even for our listeners who are like,
I mean, that's a great question. I've been doing it for a little over a year. EOS, I'll kind of use it in like modern terms. And if we want to get more into the history of how it was built, we can get there. But as an implementer, there's business coaches, there's business consultants. Coaches kind of help facilitate and pull out of people great things. Consultants are kind of doing that fractionally, doing that part of the work in your company for you. Implementers with EOS, we're not stepping into your business's structure, but we're coaching, facilitating, and teaching you how to use the EOS system, which was built for entrepreneurial and founded businesses, how to simplify your business, figure out delegating, build some systems and structures, and get you really well connected to the data part of your business where it makes sense what you're measuring and how it's helping you predict what's going to come. So that's the quickest explanation of what it is. And an implementer really is a partner that helps you change how you're operating to execute on business at a much higher efficiency with some simplicity. And my favorite part is they want to do it in a healthy way where you're creating a culture, because all of us in our shops are creating the culture we work in. Like we create a happy or not happy environment for ourselves. And a lot of times it's very unintentional. And EOS even gives you a good idea of how to be intentional about that culture you're connecting with for yourself, creating, but also for what your customers are going to feed off of and connect with as they come through the door.
I love that. And having worked with EOS and our P2 groups and see our P2 members go through it, it's almost like, I don't know, having like a blueprint for your business or like having it really like dialed down so you understand why you're doing, what your core values is, what your mission vision is, then what your expectations are of the whole team and moving forward. And it allows
Mhm.
you to just operate, I don't know, in a more professional, dialed way, I guess, Tony. Is that like, I don't know. That's my summary of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like there's some companies I've connected with that are making good money, but they're doing it in a way that's kind of chaotic. They're always having to use their creativity towards solving problems. And so, what made them creative or passionate to start the business, what they were good at, they don't get as much time to be creative and excited about that because all their creativity is going into solving problems and issues all
Mhm.
the time because they haven't figured out how to take care of those parts of the business such that their creativity and their passion can be applied towards the parts of the business that really excites them. And so a lot of times they not only make a little more money if they're making money, but they're much more happy and they're getting more of what they want from their experience and in owning and working in their business than what they were before. So it was developed from a guy that was having a problem with his family business and really just was asking the question of where are these issues coming from at their root cause? Because a lot of times the issue we're having with a person, we initially think it's the person, but if we really dial into it, a lot of times it's how we led them getting into that role and the intentional culture we built or didn't build and let them know about before they even started and the expectations we have for them. We always bring expectations after they miss them, but we're really terrible at pulling it out of our head and communicating it ahead of time and even measuring whether they should join our environment off of those things. And so it always feels kind of like a shock to them because they weren't told, but it seems obvious to you because it's just how you've done it. So it just helps create some clarity, some accountability, and some simplicity in the business.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the word systems. We're always talking to our P2 groups about having systems in place because once you have stuff down and you have a plan, it gives your mind, the ability to kind of focus on the next thing or be the visionary. And I'm thinking like we hire a bicycle mechanic. We know that bicycle mechanic needs to do X, Y, Z, but if it's not clearly defined, then that bicycle mechanic doesn't know that they're supposed to do X, Y, Z. So what you're doing,
Well,
yeah.
and you can get a mechanic that has a high competence. He's crushing on internally run bikes. He can bleed the crap out of brakes. He's amazing with wheels. But you're afraid if he ever talks to a customer. And you think it's okay if you separate him from talking to the customers. The only problem is that your culture and your values should be everywhere, not just extended to customers, but extended to fellow staff. Otherwise, that toxicity just bleeds out. So even if they're not great with customers and you hide them, but they're bringing that same kind of culture that's not who you are and they're spitting that out onto other coworkers, it's still a problem and it's not going to go away.
Mhm.
So EOS just helps you kind of quantify what that is, because otherwise you're just making everything up as you go. It gives you a starting point that kind of pulls out of you what you know and gives you a way to start using it.
Interesting. Yeah, we've definitely all had those mechanics who we don't want to talk to customers, which is not good.
Yeah.
So for listeners, we're saying EOS. You can Google when you're done riding or running or whatever you're doing right now, eosworldwide.com. And
hmm
Tony is actually an implementer. Now, what does that mean, Tony? You actually help retailers get the EOS system going in their store?
Yeah, well, first I'll back up and just say there are plenty of tools for people who want to implement it on their own. So if you
Hmm.
go to EOS Worldwide, there's a lot of free stuff you can download. There's some videos. There's the book Traction that explains the system really well. They have a whole library of books that focus on the different parts of the model and how to really go even deeper into the people or the processes of the data part. So there's a lot of resources there that you can self-inform yourself on before you even decide that, yes, we're going to buy into this and do it. If you are going to do it, EOS does have a process of how you start implementing what it is in your business. It takes about a year and a half to 2 years to really fully master it because it is new tools and disciplines. No one jumps from road biking into mountain biking. All of a sudden, you're really great. Usually, if you're great at road biking, you jump into mountain biking, you're just really great at crashing because you don't know how to control the bike. So, the process you can self-implement through the process, and they have a way for you to log in and get that training. An
Mhm.
implementer helps to step in and do that for you and your business, so you're not being the implementer yourself but also the member of your team. You get a chance to have that facilitation happen and get that culture created in an intentional process. It's usually through day-long sessions. um, First one's free, which just teaches you and your team what the system is, how it's built, why it exists the way it does, so everyone's on the same page. And that's usually, because it's free, a great way to figure out if you want to do it yourself or have somebody help you. After that point, it's done through quarterly sessions that kind of walk you through the tools and disciplines, building out your vision, and then get really good at executing through the rest of the systems to a point of mastery. So, part of the um, EOS is not the easy button.
Mhm.
It's the right button. And I have found most entrepreneurs, most business owners, they're not afraid of hard work. They're afraid of wasted work,
Oh.
right? Of trying it and it not working, right? Or putting money into it and it doesn't pay you, like it doesn't give a dividend, right? We're okay with working hard and we lean into the things that we were tried and true. And anything that's new, the first measure we have is this going to be a waste of my time? Um, so the implementer part of it is just a matter of, the first session figures out, is it going to be a waste of my time? And then as you invest in getting better, you're going to see that this does create real impact for your business.
Yeah, that wasting time, like it's a lot of time to put aside to do this, but it does have tremendous value and impact. I first got turned on to EOS through our P2 program members, and our P2 program members are retailers who are really driven to improve their business, their profitability, and just the whole operations and systems
hmm
business. I read the Traction book, which you recommended, that is available on the EOS website, and it just blew me away on how we can create systems, put systems in place that really do change the way we're doing business. And I actually, Tony, like I use those systems at the NVDA. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely changed the way we work here. But how did you find EOS? I'm wondering.
Oh, I was first handed the book Traction, which is again the book that kind of explains the system. 2015 or 16 from a customer. He has a performance third party auto parts company that makes parts for your cars if you want to soup them up. And he had self-implemented, it transformed his business, and he gave me a copy of the book. And I kind of read through it, and I mean, I've read so many different leadership books and business books. To me, it just felt like another idea to consider and think about and maybe pull a piece from, but didn't do a lot with it. And then after the first year of COVID, my partner and I decided that we wanted to find a way the amount of administrative work it took to run a bike shop felt like it tripled overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And so executing at a high level felt even more difficult. And that's where it exposed, some weak spots in our systems and processes and how we did business. And so we actually paid to have an implementer come in and take us through the first year of sessions. After that point, I was self-implementing because, again, it takes a year or two to get kind of mastery and feel like you have a handle on how to keep moving forward. So did that. And honestly, through the last couple of years, our sales have lowered. And I've realized, man, if I had something that I could share with people to help their business, but also could create an opportunity for myself or my business could hire people to really jump in and work. And since we have systems and processes, I don't have to be there as much now.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. And I found out about the program with EOS to help other businesses do that. And I jumped on a little over a year ago. So that's how it's been. And again, because I know that like people always say you should work on your business, like take a couple of days, go work on your business. And a lot of times, whatever you're good at is what you work on. So I was always good at marketing and messaging and sales. So when I would take those breaks to work on my business, that's what I really paid attention to. But I didn't have a framework on how to pay attention to the parts of the business I wasn't as familiar with. What I like about EOS is it gives you an idea of if you're going to think about how do I work on this thing? If I'm at 30,000 feet, how do I start thinking about my business and how do I help it down the road and help make sure it's strong holistically? It gives you a frame of language and a starting point to know how to work on your business. So that's why I'm passionate about connecting it to people, whether it's just a free session to get you and your team caught up so you can go implement it, or if it's me helping you for the first few steps or longer. It just makes an impact. And I think it's important to have that for entrepreneurs who they aren't a corporation, right? You have to be everything. And having a framework on how to build that out so you're not there all the time, I think matters.
Tony, how interesting that you say, like, we are always saying, I'm always saying, take time to work on your business. And how you're saying, like, okay, well, I'm going to do that, but I'm probably going to work on what I like working on or what I'm most comfortable with. That's true, right? But there's those other pieces. I wonder, because you have presented to MBDA members before, and I absolutely think it's wonderful that you're a bike shop owner who's also an EOS implementer, because you can really speak to the challenges. And you presented at the Retailer Summit last year. What's some of the feedback that you hear from retailers after sitting through your session? Or like, what are some of the challenges that you think like most people bring forward? Is it just getting an org chart together? Is it just getting systems in place? Is it human resources?
Yeah, the first, I mean, when you hear about the whole system, the first impact is it's two-sided. It's like, oh, wow, like I have a pathway on how to work on my business, create some strength, and just be better at running a business, right? Again, that takes a self-acknowledgement that you need to get better and you can get better. Like if you're a person that kind of knows it and feels confident and not looking to learn or grow or be a little vulnerable with what you're doing, it's going to kind of wash over you. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to accept the fact that you could do better. And this is a pathway on how you go to it. So a lot of times for people they can create some excitement of, oh, this won't waste my time. Like I can now pour into my business in these areas and build these disciplines, and it's going to translate and have accountability throughout my system. But the other side of it is it takes work to put these in place. And I always use the example of how you're running your business right now is the coffee maker you have at home and you've used 1,000 times. And EOS, it makes way better business, but it's an espresso machine. You got to figure out how to grind it, put it in there, pull the shot for a certain amount of time. You get a better cup of coffee. At first, you're going to be way less efficient at it for that result. But over time, you'll be able to get a great result in the same amount of time because the repetition builds mastery and efficiency. So that's what's daunting to people at first is this is going to take time on top of how I'm doing it. But it's also why EOS has a process that lasts a year or two on integrating and implementing this in your business. You can't go and do one day and get it all done. You can't hear it and then go do it and have it working well. It's not like other books or systems in that way where it's trying to inspire this small change. It's a holistic way of building a strong business that does take time, but you don't have to swallow it all at once. You just do it a bite at a time through the process. So that would be my feedback, is that they're relieved that there is a way to invest their time. They're daunted of the fact that it's going to take a lot of work to get there, but EOS doesn't recommend trying to get it done in 60 days. It'll take a year or two minimum to finally feel some mastery on helping it solidify into your DNA and who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I know a retailer specifically who I think met you at the summit last year, and she's been working through EOS, and I hear her say, okay, I'm at this part now. So she's like going through the process. It's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, common issues that EOS can help identify and solve. I mean, going through the process, even in your business, like what were some of the things that like you didn't even know maybe were an issue? You know what I mean? Because I think because we're in it, we don't even know what our issues are, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, you assume because you have chemistry with people as you're interviewing, as you're working with them, that you all think you're trying to get the same thing accomplished. So something about me, I hate practical jokes. I don't like them. I feel the closer someone gets to me, the safer they should feel. That's my preference. I was a youth pastor for a while, and my youth ministry didn't have any of those kind of shenanigans that went on. I'm not saying people who enjoy that kind of stuff are doing something wrong, but I've never been cliquish. I'm always really wanting to make sure that kid at the table sitting by himself has someone to sit with them, that you can walk through my doors and feel included, whether I'm a Cat 1 mountain biker or just started. I want you to feel like you have a place and that you can belong. And then there's places where you can connect and ride with different levels of athletes. That's great. But at the bike lab, we shouldn't kind of always have our backs to people. We should have our fronts to people. So I realized I was hiring people that I had great chemistry with because I was a pretty high level performance athlete. I was a Cat 2, Cat 1 road racer and mountain racer. And I connected with them really well. But over time of accumulating those people in our shop and staff in our shop, there started to be this clique that formed, and there started to be this conflict and lack of chemistry. And I'm wondering, why can I get along with them so great when we have a bunch of people? It feels like we're in conflict over how they're interacting with people. Now my staff are paying more attention to the familiars than they are the new people walking through the door. And so it created some staff conflict. I didn't really have a way to process because they're good people. I had a great relationship with them. But when they interacted with customers, it wasn't how I wanted customers being interacted with. And I didn't know how to quantify that. And EOS helped me really dive into, okay, what are my guiding principles? When I make a decision, what am I really basing those off of? So I can communicate that to people who want to work here. So it attracts the right people, but self-selectively rejects the people who won't be a fit. And it's not bad people, right? You can have an elite bike shop that's about the elite riders and serves them really well. And it's not maybe huge, but it's really good at going deep with those people. But that's just not me in the shop that we were going to have. So that's one issue that's common, is shops don't understand how to find the right people that really fit because they've not done the work to figure out what guides them when they make a decision, which is another way of saying your core values. I think measuring the business is a lot more difficult on the data side. Most of the ways that we're measuring the business are the lagging numbers like profit and loss or revenue, and not the activity or predictive type of numbers that give us a sense of what's happening in the business to help make course changes before the lagging number is seriously affected. And so the way that it helps you think around data, they have a scorecard they recommend that has a person, a number, and a goal for that quarter that they need to be hitting every week. And it needs to be something that can be averaged out weekly. And in bike shops, sometimes not hard. You got 3 people who are doing service, sales, customer support, invoicing. Who's in charge of what makes you realize that if accountability is across multiple people, there's no accountability, right? Someone has to be in charge of something or you can't hold them accountable for it. Right. So it really helps you start thinking through, how do you have accountability? If everyone's in charge of sales and sales aren't going great, then they can always say, well, I had to build this bike or I had to fix this. It has to be to a point where you know how to hold people accountable, but also that helps you figure out what numbers work and what numbers don't work. A lot of times when people jump into the scorecard, they get frustrated because their first go at it, they realize there's problems with that number and that goal being tied to that person, but that's a huge learning. Then you can move on and say, okay, really, what are we looking for? And it takes for the scorecard, figuring out the right kind of activity to measure that affects your lagging numbers as a business. It can take 6 to 9 months to finally figure that out in a really productive way. But it is seasonal too. It doesn't. It's every quarter you kind of adjust it, which works great for the bike business that's has its ups and downs annually, and you can kind of predict that a little bit too. So the scorecard's one that feels like an issue and it's hard to lean into, but I think it has a lot of value. Knowing what the right people are is one as well.
Yeah.
Structure wise, I think a lot of us probably have similar structures to how we have people in charge of things. But we're usually just throwing talent into those places versus giving people systems and processes to work from. So it helps guide you through how to do that. But that's really daunting we're all in an echo chamber, right? We're in our own little place, and places like the MBDA and our vendors we talk to and the P2 group, they see so many examples. They could probably spit off what kind of structure might work. But when you're in your own house all the time,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to pull out what structure you should have versus the people you've hired. So, those are some of the key things that people run into. It's the top part of the model, which is vision, people, and data. EOS says once you get strong in those areas, your vision component, your people component, and your data component, that it gets really clear what your root cause issues are.
Mhm.
And then your action really starts to solve things instead of just squishing them for a little bit. So,
Finding the cause.
yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I have so much. Tony, you just said so much.
I know that was a lot.
Yeah, I'm like jamming with you in so many ways. When I went through the process of core values, like really writing down our core values for the MBDA, that was a huge process for us as an organization because, like, let's say one of them is collaborative and inclusive. And that really changed the way that we do things here. And we started building the MBDA out as a community, not
Mhm.
telling people how things are done, rather welcoming ideas. And so I always come back to that collaborative and inclusive. If I'm going to hire someone, I want someone who's not going to say, I'm going to do it this way. I want someone who said, I'll work with the team to do it this way. If I'm going to
Mhm.
bring on a new program, it has to fit that like collaborative and inclusive umbrella, or it's not right for us. So going through that process of really determining what our core values has like trickled out into so many different areas. So I think there's such opportunity there for retailers.
What's important about that too is I think business owners will see our staff making decisions and we'll wonder, like, we don't do it that way. How can they not get this? Do I have to write down every little thing for them to do it right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't. But it means that they don't live by the same guiding principles on how you make decisions, which is really determined by your focus of the business and your core values. So
Yeah.
if they don't really connect with your core values, like for mine, it was inclusive. They don't really connect with that. It doesn't matter how many steps I give them, they're still going to be more cliquish versus inclusive to the new person that walks through. So you don't have to go to the minutia of every little thing happening because no one would follow it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But you do need to lean into knowing who you really are, what you really expect, how you want people making decisions throughout your organization so that if you're there or not, you know that those guideposts are there, that even if they have to make it up, like you don't have a process, like helping a customer that's come in late, like how you deal with that should be based on your core values. And when you hear about it, you should feel like, well, maybe I wouldn't have decided that, but man, that's right in line with who we are. And I'm thrilled that we did it that way. That's actually creative. I wouldn't have thought of that versus, oh my God, we did what?
Yeah.
So it's important because it reduces the amount of times you got to step in and use your creativity to solve a problem that you feel like should already be solved.
All right, Tony, I gotta I gotta level with you. I'm feeling like right now I'm talking to a lot of retailers who are in like survival mode, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking them like to hunker down and get a budget done, get a cash flow done, and make some goals for the year. And the retailers are just like, I'm just trying to open the door every morning. Like, and they can't even define their goals. Like they can't even think about what their goal is rather than just get through today. Can EOS help shop owners like articulate goals?
It it can. It gives you some language like long-term issues versus short-term issues.
Okay.
So short-term issues are right now today, what's going on, and we got to get this fixed in the next couple of weeks. Long-term issues are like, wow, the industry's freaking changed, right? How we built, like when you build a business model, you start with, you have a Venn diagram of your product and how you deliver your product, and then the market and the part of the market that wants to get that product delivered in that way. Well, that's nothing to do with EOS, but it can expose that you have that issue, right? So you start out thinking we're a brick and mortar and we're going to sell bikes to the part of the market that prefers to buy bikes from a brick and mortar, right? Before COVID, that's even how the whole world was much more organized than it is now. EOS helps you then execute on delivering that product to the market and asking questions about issues you might have. I think what we're dealing with right now in our industry, you could be executing at a high level, but if you don't change how you're delivering your product or how people want to connect to your product, that part of the model has changed. And executing super hard without reevaluating that long-term issue that's not going away, that's the long-term issue. You got to figure that out. Where people want to get bikes from has categorically changed.
Yeah.
They love having somebody in person to talk to help them. Like our shop became an authorized Canyon service provider because we wanted to use their marketing for our benefit to connect with people. We have people who come from 5 hours away to have us work on their Canyon bike because there's no other service provider. But the first 4 people that walked in the door because we are a Canyon service provider wanted our help helping them know which bike to buy.
Excellent. Yeah. So
And then they bought it from Canyon. Right?
uh-huh.
And we don't get paid for helping them figure out which bike to buy. And that's just how the industry and the model of what product you have and how it's getting delivered has adjusted. And so for you and your business and your situation, that's not going away. Partnering with direct to consumer can create opportunity of customers, but you have to figure out how you have a product or service you deliver to those customers that gives you the revenue growth you need with your overhead to be profitable. And it's going to be a new way. It's not going to be, if we rely upon the old product market system and we don't modernize into understanding omni-channel, a way to connect there and get some help doing it, we're going to struggle for a while, I think. So EOS can help you ask those questions and know how you are going to approach that problem for who you are in your business, in your market. Because as much as we think we're all the same, all of our markets and environments are really, really different. And EOS can be very helpful to giving you tools to think about that and have accountability on solving those things and get everybody moving in the same direction, because that's an efficiency thing. How much time are you wasting getting things done because everyone's not quite sure why and how you're doing it? Can all be very helpful. But I 100% understand survival mode. The revenue for us that we had in 2023 and 2024 is the same revenue we had in 2019. That's 24 months to 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right about so we're running these workshops at the CABDA shows, and they're wonderful workshops. We had 60 people at the P2 workshop Midwest. And kind of like I put out this clarity statement that's like, hey, you're going to hear a lot of ideas. Every business is different. Take what you will back to your business and decide how you might want to implement it into your business and how you're going to get your team on board. But you're right, the model is changing, and we have to be very cognizant of that and have a strategy in place.
And I think you need to have the litmus test, which is really hard because when you're the owner of a business, everything is your fault, the good and the bad. But when you keep having years where you're not finding profit and things aren't working, you have to think of it as an investment that you've bought stock in. And sometimes you are able to sell that stock at a profit. Sometimes you sell and you can get even. Sometimes you stay in through the low and it comes back. Sometimes you realize it's just how you have it is going to keep getting lower. You need to think of it as an investment, whether you should stay in the game or not. Not in the sense that we need to lose a bunch of retailers, but as business owners, we have to think about it in a numbers-based way. Like, is this sustainable, or what do I have to change to find profit?
Yeah.
Right. And it may be downsizing and relocating to a smaller footprint. Right. It could be different systems and processes. It could be, if people want to buy more in my market from online, I only have display models. I don't have a ton of retail models, but I get really good at a service that they pay for and figuring out which one they need and what size and those sorts of things. So I think there's a lot of innovation that's going to happen because it has to. A scarcity is the scarcity and risk is the mother of innovation, right?
Mm,
And we've got to stop thinking about the same way we have because it's never going to be like it was. Brick and mortar is going to be an option, not a hardcore preference like it was before, but it doesn't mean you can't succeed. You just have to think about the problem differently and rethink the model.
yeah. Tony, a challenge that I hear come up a lot is around staffing, the
Hmm.
people that we employ. And sometimes when we're looking at people's financials, we're looking at their payroll percentage. It can be 30, almost 40%, which is way too high.
Yeah,
And the answer is, well, I have this manager who's worked with me for a while. And you can almost hear in the retailer's voice that they're not pleased with this manager. But sometimes we keep people just because they're like a warm human. And we try to talk through the conversation with the retailer, like, is this person the right person for this job, or are they just filling a spot? And I
yeah,
know part of
yeah,
EOS is helping the retailer like
yeah.
determine that. Can you talk to that a little bit, Tony?
Absolutely. Unique to versus corporate structures, unique to entrepreneurial or founded companies, is before we have our structure, we have to hire talent. Someone who already knows how to do it or do it well enough that they don't need systems or structures or processes to get us a good result. The problem is that reliance on that talent keeps us from working on the business to develop those systems and processes. So somebody that's more affordable, maybe matches our culture better, can step in and do the job at a high level, never becomes possible,
Mm,
right? Because that person, what they're really saying when they don't want to get rid of that manager, they know they're not a fit and they know they want to get rid of them. The problem is the business itself doesn't know itself well enough for someone to step in and run it. It's all based on the talent you've hired,
mm.
right? That's common with every entrepreneurial, like every brewery, every tech startup. That's not unique to bike shops. You're grabbing warm bodies and talent because it solves the problem quickly and you don't have to do all this other work. EOS just challenged you to say, that will never solve. The next person you hire that has talent will end up in the same place because they don't have the systems or structures and they can't pass it on and take the expertise of who you are and how you're resourceful, pass it on to people so they can have a more affordable range of staff employee delivering a high result and the repeatable things that falls in line with who you are as a company. And you can be a lot more accountable when that happens. And until you do that, you're always going to be stuck hiring talent because it's the only option you have.
Yeah, so it's like you just settle for mediocre, right? Like you just don't like you just take it because it's easy, but you have to actually do the work.
Yeah.
Um,
But again, before you have a framework on knowing how to do that work, it's a lot of time if you're trying to do it by yourself.
mhm.
Right. And what's nice about EOS is it's not a blank sheet of paper. It's a process that can help you know how to work on your business to get to your systems and structures in a way that focuses on the top priority stuff and lets guiding principles cover the rest.
I like the human resource, the right person, right seat thing.
Hmm.
And then I think there's something I remember from EOS is that sometimes when we have an employee who's not performing well, we put a lot of energy there, either in training them or just our personal like stress thinking about that
Hmm.
person,
Yeah.
instead of putting the energy into the people who are doing wonderful and lifting them up, you know? So I don't know if that was EOS or if that's just something I got,
Yeah.
but that's,
No, that's it. So it's right person. There's two issues that come out of your people part of your business is if they're the right person, they match your cultures, they make decisions with customers and how they communicate right in line with who they are. But you can't find a place for them that they can really operate at they could be technically sound, but they're not good at doing like being quick,
mm,
right? And so what happens with those people is we end up kind of moving them through spots because we like them, they fit our culture, but we can't find a role in our business that we can hold them accountable to. And the question they ask on if they're in the right seat is, do they get it? Do they want it? And are they capable of it? And
mm.
sometimes capable is, are they capable of learning it, not just doing it right away? But if they don't actually get the fact that they can't just be really good at working at bikes, they have to get 8 to 12 done a day, right? They got to crank it out and move, right? If they don't want that kind of work environment, then they're just not the right fit. And we got to say, I love you. Let's be friends, but you don't fit working here. The other issue is where somebody has the talent and they're knocking out the work. They don't fall in line with your guiding principles, and they create a toxicity with your customers and inside your staff that just lowers the production and expectations of everybody. So that's where you have to get rid of somebody who you haven't had to worry about in terms of them getting stuff done, and replacing will be hard. But it's more important that people walk in ready and low on fear to buy versus walking into something that feels tense. Because as often as we try to hide the fact that that person's an issue, I can tell you, I have 13 years of experience. I have customers always feel it. They just don't let you know.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, Tony, we've been talking, I kind of think to like the retailer who might be maybe struggling or maybe okay, but needs some extra help. What about the retailer who thinks they're just like doing everything right? They're making a profit. They've kind of like they've arrived. Can
Mhm.
EOS still help them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're at that point and you haven't put systems or structures in place, if your creativity is still used to solve problems on a consistent basis, if when you're on vacation, you feel like you have to call in and check in on everybody,
Mhm.
it means your business could sell, but for about 20% of what it's worth if you did the work,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're selling a business, you can't sell yourself, right? Otherwise, you just have a job and a new boss. If you're going to move it to the point that you could expand and reproduce who you are in other places to guarantee it's the same experience with the same accountability, you got to have that stuff lined out, and you can't make it super complicated, because even though you might have the resourcefulness to understand a tool, it has to be simple enough for everyone to understand that has to interact with it. But in companies that step into a process like EOS to really systemize their uh, uh, business, create the right structures, have the right expectations and guiding principles, they're able to sell and be sold. Like someone's more willing to buy them at a significantly higher level. And it gives you an exit plan. The best time to sell a business is when it's going well, not when it's going poorly. So if you feel like, man, things are going good, this is a perfect time to step into building those tools, disciplines, and accountability. Because it'll just, if you've got fire, throw gas on it, man.
Yeah. Now, what about the retailer? And we even have P2 members that were saying you have to put a cash flow in place. You should get systems in place. And they just can't find the time. They're not prioritizing it. Like, I mean, you went through the process when you started with EOS. Like, they're like, I'll do it at some point. Like, is there a good time? What is when do we know it's the right step? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you just kind of
Yeah,
have.
well, this actually lays into the presentation I did last year at the Retailer Summit, which isn't how EOS wants to do it. But I knew as a bike shop owner that our time is so limited, and we're smaller businesses, usually under 10 employees. There are 5 foundational tools with EOS that are kind of the 20/80. Like if you could step in and just operate those, you're going to get a 70 to 80% benefit result out of EOS as you master them, right? Not day one, but master them. And so that's going to be your accountability chart. And they frame that as the structure outside the people you have. So you basically fire everyone in your mind and say, if I was going to organize my business in such a way as the key roles and functions that it needs this. You do that first, and then you start thinking about if you have the right people for those seats. So accountability chart, you do your vision element. It asks you 8 questions. What are your guiding principles? What's your focus? What is your purpose, cause, or passion? What's your 10-year goal? What's your marketing strategy? What's your 3-year picture? Your 1-year plan? Your 90-day goals for vision and working on the business? And then what are your long-term issues? That's the second. The meeting pulse is a weekly meeting you do to keep everybody accountable and on the same page, but also deal with your issues. Working in 90-day rocks for yourself and your company is the 4th. And then what was the 5th? I've just blanked on it. There's one more. Let me grab something. I shouldn't know that off the top of my head. I just totally blanked. But those are tools that kind of lie in different components. Oh, the issues list. So the way that they talk about issues is there are opportunities for growth and there are challenges to growth. You want to create a culture where people can bring up things they're seeing, so you're not in your own echo chamber and people are scared to bring up what they might see. Collectively, no matter how smart you are, the collective intelligence in the room is always smarter than one person. And building a culture where people can bring those things up is way more important than you being king of the hill. So, those 5 foundational tools from EOS, I think, could make a difference. And I think self-implementing and even thinking through that lens would be very productive for anybody at any level in their business.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. And it is. It feels like it's so busy. It's so busy. It's so busy. I can't make time for this. But then I hear and I see the retailers who do, they pull out an hour, 2 hours a week. And, even if it's like staying at home or going to a coffee shop just to do this work, and they start to feel like that actual time, even though they're taking 2 hours, it actually gives them more time because they put the systems in place, which frees up time, so
Yeah.
it actually like it does help, that's what happens.
It, at first, it is more time. At
Hmm.
first, it is painful. And for a lot of us, the pain of changing is not yet uh, that pain is more than the pain of staying the same. And it's not really until we evaluate how much pain are we actually dealing with. Let me step back and think about what my day to day in my life is. And do I want that just to be what it is? Or is that painful enough and I'm willing to open up to some opportunities and options? And EOS is a way to know that if you lean into it, you're not wasting time,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to waste your time. With the time you put into EOS, it will pay back to you. It'll give you time. It'll give you more of what you want. And it's at least a pathway to think about your business in a way that helps you see both the opportunities and issues you're really dealing with at a root cause versus just what you're feeling as symptoms.
Yeah. I know, I know from my relationship with you that you are just someone who, I mean, you told me off air before we started taping that you love doing this because you love just helping people. You love just
Hmm.
getting the information that you have out there. So
Yeah.
let's say, Tony, that someone listening is like, all right, I want to check out this EOS. Like, what does it look like? What are the next steps? What would you suggest to them to, like, should they call you and ask questions? Should they go to the website? For someone who's ready to make a move and like wants
Yeah.
to know more.
They're on EOS's website, there is a organizational health checkup form. I think the first thing, that's a great way for you to like self-reflectively look at your business, and it gives you an idea of how healthy it is in a real simple way. It takes maybe 5 minutes. Sorry, I'm trying to look up those 5 tools, make sure I said that right. Yeah, we did. Okay, so um, the organizational health checkup at EOS Worldwide. They also have the first chapter of the book Traction that gives you an overview of the system for free on the website as well.
And
So before you go
well,
ahead.
I just want to say, Tony, we'll link to that in the show notes for anyone who
Yeah.
wants to easily go there. Yep.
So first of all, use their process to say, okay, let's see how healthy I really think my business is. And that's like looking in the mirror, right? Like what do I see in here? Because if your head down all the time and you only got 5 minutes to bring your head up, take 5 minutes, go through that health checkup, see where you honestly think you are. Next, I think it takes 5 to 10 minutes to read the first chapter of Traction. So spend 5 to 10 minutes reading that free first chapter to get an idea of what it means and looks like to be strong in all the parts of your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those would be the first 2 steps. After that point, if you want to have a conversation over the phone or via email, I have no problem being available for people to help you kind of navigate how you should start and what it looks like and those sorts of things. And EOS itself has the full book of Traction. It has its whole library around those things. So if like people are really what you're diving into, they have a book on the people part of your business that's really helpful. But there's actually people and they interact all throughout. So if you haven't read the first chapter yet and you read the people book, you'd be like, oh, I should probably go back and read and know what the whole system is. So I know how they're really going deeper into the people side. So the free first chapter can drive you towards then what you really want to check out and just evaluate it. I just want you to know that it's not going to waste your time.
Yeah, no, it's true. That Traction book, I honestly carry it with me everywhere I go. And many of our
Yeah.
PQ members do too. So there's lots of stuff you can just like keep revisiting it. Well then, Tony, I guess we should share contact. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, my email, my bike shop is just Tony, Tony, at thebikelabokc.com. You can just email me there. My email signature, when I reply back, also has my mobile phone number in it. And you're welcome to text me to set up a call anytime. I have a busy schedule because of the things I'm doing, both with my own business and bicycle fitting and EOS. So I'm not often randomly available, but same day I can usually get on a call. I just have to reschedule a little bit. So I'd be more than helpful to be a resource to help think that through, because we have the information inside of us. We just haven't given ourselves permission to step back and work and think about our business, because we just don't want it to be a waste of time, and we know things need to get done.
I always know talking things through with other people helps me to get my thoughts, a little bit more organized and clear. So,
yeah.
And listeners, yeah, Tony, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's also a judgment-free zone. Yeah. I've made about every mistake you can make. So I'm not going to ask you questions that make you feel dumb. I promise. It really is a tough spot that we're in. And continuing forward and choosing to do this industry comes out of love. It has to come from a place of love. But right now there's a lot of fear and scarcity right in our faces. And so I just want to be as much of an encouragement to make the right decision for people that are out there as I can.
Yeah. I mean, you're a genuinely awesome human. And listeners, if you want, you can always send me an email, heather@mbda.com, and I'll connect you directly to Tony as well. Tony, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for being awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for, letting me be a part of stuff. I love this industry and I love the people in it. And we're bruised up a little bit right now, and we need to figure out a training plan to get us back out there.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks again.
Ready to upgrade your ride? Meet the Okai Flex Move EBF10, the foldable electric bike that combines portability and style. With its powerful motor, smooth 20-inch fat tires, and foldable design, the EBF10 takes you further faster. Whether you're commuting through the city or hitting the trails, it's compact enough to fit in your trunk and powerful enough for any adventure. Lighten the load and enhance your life with the Okai Flex Move EBF10. Now available in Onyx Black and Cactus Green. Find yours today at okai.co. Ready?
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.